Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing some Madolche test hands. I'm really excited for you guys because this is actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Diego. And this deck is a really amazing deck that has a lot of really awesome one card combos that can go into some absolutely incredible fields. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell in there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name description in a single video, getting a signed cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron, along with test hands. And definitely give Diego some love down in the comments for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's get straight on into this one. This deck is a really awesome deck that basically involves using some one card combos to go into some really amazing plays. And it's super consistent because you have a bunch of starters in this deck to make some really awesome fields, from summoning out Madolche to summoning out your copies of Petting, and even Angeli get you into some really awesome plays. The only downside of this deck is that sometimes you will draw into your combo pieces that you really want into the deck so you can special summon them out to your field, but you only have a couple of those in the deck to watch out for, so it rarely happens in this build, which is really awesome. But you guys know it is dad rule number one that you've got to pile shuffle the deck, and that is always dad rule number one, so you don't brick. But if you guys would like to check out the deck profile, it is down in the description down below. But let's give the deck a quick shuffle and see what we can do for our first test hand. So we're going to give the deck a quick riffle and then give it a quick cut and see what we can do. So for our first test hand, we're going to draw into a copy of Infinite Impermanence. Pot of Extravagance, that's pretty good. Another copy of Pot of Extravagance, I think one was fine. One copy of Madolche Ticket, and a copy of Madolche. So that first hand, before we got to the copy of Madolche, was looking a little bit like a brick, but just drawing into this one card has fixed pretty much the entire hand, which is what's really amazing about this deck, is you can have a really weird hand like this, where you draw into multiple cards that you really don't need, like a second copy of Extravagance and one of our cross-out designator targets, and you really look at the hand and go, okay, well, I really can't do all that much, and then you draw into one of your starters and you just have this entire amazing hand. So what we're going to do right off the bat is activate our copy of Pot of Extravagance, and we're going to go ahead and shuffle up the extract and hopefully not hit three of the same thing, which does happen every so often, but we're going to go ahead and shuffle up the extract and see what we can do. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of 6 total cards, and once we get rid of these 6 total, we're going to take a look and see what we hit. We hit a copy, 2 copies of Glass Souffle, 2 copies of Tiramisu, 1 Sistard, and a single copy of Double A Zeus. So we still have plenty of plays in the extra deck that we can go into. So we're going to go ahead and draw our 2 cards and see what we get. And we get a copy of a Pudding Sis and a Gozen Match. This is one of the bricks that you usually don't want to draw into, but that's totally fine because we can get it out of our hand with our copy of Petting. And we also have our copy of Gozen Match to lock down the opponent. So this is actually a pretty good hand. So what we're going to go ahead and do is normal summon out the copy of Madolche. Madolche has a really good effect that basically she's the Stratos of the deck that lets you search any Madolche that you want from your deck to your hand, which is really good. So we're going to go ahead and search the deck for a copy of Petting. Petting is going to be the one card combo for the entire deck that you're trying to get to, so you can go in for all of your crazy plays. This is literally the best starter in the deck that you want to search if you don't have it, and you always want to draw into this card. So we're going to go ahead and add that card from deck to hand. Then we're going to take a quick look at that card to show you guys why it's so crazy if you're unfamiliar with it. So what this card actually does is just absolutely insane. It has the ability, if this card in your possession is destroyed by an opponent's card and sent to the graveyard, you can shuffle it into the deck, which is usually the common effect between all of your Madolche monsters. But if you have no monsters in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if this card is special summoned, you can special summon a Madolche monster from your hand or deck, except another copy of this card, and if you do, reduce its level by 1. Also, you can't special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except for Madolche's, which is why we're playing the Extravagance build. So we're going to go ahead and special summon out the copy of Petting to our side of the field, and then we're going to immediately special summon out our copy of Pudding, which is why we don't want to actually draw into this card, because we usually want to summon it from the deck. But we're just going to summon it from the hand, and it does become a level 4 monster, which is not going to stay on the field for long, because we're going to immediately overlay for a copy of our Glass Souffle, which is really good to be able to overlay into that card, because you're going to have plenty of plays. And this card is very unique for the deck as well, because it has the ability that that you can detach a material from it and then target one of your Madolche monsters, and I believe it has the ability to make it where it's unaffected by monster effects. Yes. Quick effect, detach a material from this card, target a Madolche monster on the field, and this turn, that face-up monster is unaffected by card effects except its own, which is a really good effect to be able to just add a little layer of protection to some of your monsters. So we're just going to go ahead and detach a material, because what we're really after is just to detach to get a monster in the graveyard. So we're going to target the copy of Madolche to make it unaffected by monster effects except its own, which is really good. Once we detach that material, we're then going to go ahead and overlay, just like we summon in Cyber Dragons, your copy of Infinity on top of a Nova. You can make Chocolate a la Mode on top of your copy of Glass Souffle on top of any of your XZ monsters that are Madolches, which is really, really good. And we also have on the copy of our Glass Souffle, when we XZ summon, the copy of Pudding Sis, which will get the bonus effect of Chocolate a la Mode, which is really good. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and use Chocolate a la Mode's effect to be able to target in the graveyard our copy of Petting and shuffle it into the deck, which will also use the other effect of Chocolate a la Mode, which lets us detach a material from it to be able to special summon a monster from the deck, because we shuffle a Madolche back into the deck, which is really, really good to be able to just get that card off of it. We're going to detach Glass Souffle off of it, which is going to be the better target because we can actually use the effect twice. And then we're going to go ahead and grab from the deck a copy of Hoot Cake. Actually, let's grab a copy of Angeli, because it's going to get us an additional monster in the graveyard. So we're going to go ahead and grab our copy of Angeli, which is really good just to be able to get that card onto the field so we have an additional monster for our copy of Hoot Cake. But you also have the copy of Ticket that we can just go ahead and activate our copy of Ticket now. And Ticket's really good because when a Madolche card is returned from your side of the field or graveyard to your hand or main deck by a card effect, you can add a Madolche monster from your deck to your hand. And if you control a Fairy Madolche monster, which we do now with our copy of Chocolate a la Mode, you can special summon that monster from your deck in face-up attack position instead of adding it to your hand, which is pretty good. So let's go ahead and tribute the copy of our Angeli to be able to special summon out a copy of Hoot Cake, which is going to be pretty good to be able to just get that card out on our side of the field so we can go in for more combos. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle up the deck to be able to then use the effect of our copy of Hoot Cake to be able to banish from the graveyard our copy of Glass Souffle, because we're not going to be able to need that card anymore, really. So we're going to go ahead and banish that card or the copy of our Angeli. It's totally up to you which one you banish. I'm really going to banish the copy of Angeli because I can shuffle back the copy of Glass Souffle back into the extra deck, which is going to help us out just a little bit. To be able to use its effect to then, actually, you know what? Let's do it the other way. Let's go ahead and banish the copy of Angeli, or banish the copy of Glass Souffle, and we'll keep the Angeli in the graveyard because then we'll shuffle back with Chateau. So we're going to go ahead and summon out a copy of Messengelato off the copy of Hoot Cake. Then Messengelato is going to go off to be able to add us from deck to hand a copy of Chateau, which is really good to be able to use the Chateau because then we can use Chocolate a la Mode's effect again, which is really, really good. And keep in mind, this is on our very first turn. And you can actually do this if you open up Petting without even normal summoning, which is really crazy. But at this point, we're going to go ahead and use the copy of Chateau and then activate that card to be able to shuffle back our Madolche monsters into the deck. Or you can actually hold the copy of Chateau, link summon these two together to be able to make a copy of Sistart on your side of the field. And then you can activate the copy of Chateau to then shuffle these cards back into the deck, which will use the effect of Ticket and your copy of Chocolate a la Mode, which is really, really good. So all of these are going to go back into the deck, and you have both of these effects that go off, which is really, really good because Chateau on activation will shuffle them all back into the deck. And then your copy of Ticket will go off that when a Madolche is returned from your side of the field or graveyard to your hand or main deck by a card effect, you can add a Madolche from your deck to your hand. And if you control a face-up Fairy Madolche monster, then you can special summon the monster from your deck in face-up attack position instead of adding it to your hand. So we're going to use its effect to be able to grab a copy of our copy of Messengelato, which is really good. Or you can special summon out any of the other ones that you want, or you can just add from deck to hand instead of special summoning like a copy of Madolche or a copy of Petting to be able to get more plays. It's totally up to you which one you're going to do. I'm going to use its effect to be able to grab the copy of Angeli because you don't want to miss timing with your copy of your Messengelato. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle up the deck and then detach a material from the copy of Chocolate a la Mode to be able to use its effect to be able to special summon out that Messengelato to get us our last search, which is a copy of Salon. Salon is going to help us out a lot because it gets us an additional normal summon, or instead of searching this card, you can search out a copy of Promenade instead. It's totally up to you. Since we don't have a monster in hand, I usually like to grab the copy of my Promenade so I have an additional negate. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle up the deck now, and then you can kind of just set your cards to your side of the field, which is Promenade, and your copy of Goes and Match on the field. And if we did have another copy of Glass Souffle in the extra deck, you could make a copy of Glass Souffle using both of these cards on your side of the field, but unfortunately we banished it off of Extravagance, which is one of the only downsides to this deck, and sometimes you will run into those issues where you will banish out your copies of the cards that you need, which happens every so often. As long as you keep at least one Glass Souffle, one copy of Chocolate a la Mode, and maybe a copy of Queen Tiramisu, you're totally fine. But you still have plays you could do, because if you're going second, you could overlay both of these, make a copy of Tiramisu, and since we do have a Madolche in the graveyard, you can detach a material from this card and then target 2 of your Madolches in the graveyard, which will detach 1, so you'll have 2 in the graveyard, and then shuffle 2 cards on your opponent's side of the field back in the deck, and then you can OTK with this field, which is what's really cool, because this is now at 3k because of the Chateau, this is at 19, this is at 27, and this is at 2k, so you have damage on board to actually go in for game, which is what's really, really awesome. So let's go into the next test hand and see what we can do, because that was actually a really good one just to show you guys the 1-card combos that the deck can actually pull off. Because basically all you really need is 1 starter for the deck. A copy of Madolche. I'll actually show you guys really quickly all the starters that I consider the best ones for the deck, because what we're going to have in the deck is a copy of Madolche. You have the copies of Angeli as well, but you have the really, really good starter that you actually want to get to as soon as possible, and that's the copy of Petting. These are your 9 starters for the deck that you're going to be using, because you play 3 of them in the deck at each, which is what's really cool. So you have a high probability that you're actually going to hit one of your starters, which is what's really, really good, or multiple. Sometimes I'll draw into a copy of Petting and a copy of Madolche, and that's when you have a really insane hand, is when you combo the Petting with either of these 2 cards or these 2 cards with a copy of your Salon, because it gives you that additional normal summon, which is what's really cool. But this is the card that you want to get to as quickly as possible, because it's a 1-card XZ play and basically a 1-card Chocolate a la Mode, which is what's really, really awesome. So let's go ahead and shuffle up the deck again and see what we can do. As you guys are probably seeing as I'm shuffling it, we have some pretty insane hand traps in the deck, but those are actually cross-out designator targets that we're using in the deck to be able to make sure that our plays go through, because we have the 1 copy of Call by the Grave and we have the 3 copies of cross-out designator to make sure that our plays go through. But one of the most powerful cards in the deck is actually Dimensional Shifter, because it can completely turn off your opponent's turn, which is what's really, really awesome for this deck. So we're gonna go ahead and shuffle it up and see what we can do for the next one. So let's give the deck a quick cut and see what we can get. So we're going to draw on a copy of Pudding Sis. This card is glued to my hand. A copy of Goes and Match. That's pretty good just to lock the opponent down. Called by the Grave, so we're guaranteed that our plays are going to go through. Petting. That's really, really good. And a copy of Angeli. Okay, this, to begin with, this looked a little bit rough, because it's like, okay, we don't have a starter here. We don't have really any plays. We draw on one of our bricks. And then you draw the last 2, and it's like, okay, now we're fine, because we have the copy of Petting that we can special summon, go full combo, and we don't even have to banish stuff because we don't have the Extravagance in hand, and we don't even need to dig because we have 2 starters in the hand, that even if the opponent stops the copy of Angeli, we still have the Call by the Grave to stop it, and we can summon out the copy of Petting to be able to go full combo anyways. So you can go very simply right here. You can just normal summon out the copy of Angeli, use the copy of Angeli to be able to tribute itself and get a play, or you can go ahead and special summon out the copy of your Petting to your side of the field to be able to then use its effect to special summon out the copy of your Pudding Sis from your hand. And if your opponent tries to use an Ash Blossom, you can use the copy of Call by the Grave to stop them, which is what's really cool, or that could be a cross-out designator that we play in the deck as well. Now this is a level 4 just like we did before, so we're just going to go with the same combo route that we did before. Overlay both of these on our side of the field, make a copy of Glass Souffle, detach a material from the Glass Souffle, which is always the copy of Petting, because you want to make sure that this is on your copy of your Glass Souffle, because when you make Chocolate a la Mode, it needs it as a material to be able to get that second effect. We're then going to go ahead and overlay on top of the copy of our Glass Souffle, summon our Chocolate a la Mode, which is really, really good to be able to make that card. And then we're going to go ahead and target the copy of Petting in the graveyard and shuffle it back into the deck, which is then going to use the effect of our Chocolate a la Mode to be able to detach a material from it, and then special summon a Madolche from the deck, which can be anyone that you want. I'm probably going to special summon out a copy of, say, I don't even know. Wow, all three of those. That's why you pile shuffle. That is seriously why you pile shuffle right there. I cannot emphasize that enough. That is so important to pile shuffle, especially in a deck like this. But since we have the copy of Angeli in the hand, and we haven't normal summoned yet because we special summoned out the copy of Petting, you can summon out Gelato here and be able to get a copy of Promenade if you want to get a copy of Promenade, or Salon to be able to go for even more plays because we haven't normal summoned yet. So let's go ahead and special summon out the Gelato here and do a little bit different of a combo because we've opened up the copy of Angeli, use the copy of Gelato, the first Gelato, to be able to grab a copy of Salon, and then we're going to shuffle up the deck to be able to then grab even more cards and get multiple Madolches back out of the graveyard, which is going to help us out a lot. So at this point, what we're going to do is activate the copy of Salon on our side of the field just to gain that additional normal summon, which we have not normal summoned yet. So we're just going to go ahead and get our original normal summon, which is going to be the copy of Angeli that we're then going to tribute for a copy of Hoot Cake that we're going to summon to the field. And then we're going to use the copy of Hoot Cake to be able to banish our Glass Souffle from the graveyard to be able to special summon out another copy of Gelato to the field, because it's going to give us an additional search, which is really, really awesome. I bet it's right on the top, isn't it? Yeah, it's right on the top. It always is. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle up the deck, which we're going to go ahead and search actually to be able to grab a copy of Chateau. Chateau is extremely important to be able to grab because it's going to shuffle back multiple Madolches back into the deck, and we're going to go ahead and link summon before we do with both the Gelatos, so they're both live again to be able to use their effects. So we're going to go ahead and link these two away and summon out a copy of Sistart to our side of the field, and then we're going to go ahead and use the effect of Chateau to be able to shuffle back our cards, which is then going to be able to use the copy of our Chocolate a la Mode and our copy of Salon, because Salon has the ability that if another Madolche card you control is in your graveyard, is added to your hand, or shuffled in the deck by a card effect, you can set a Madolche spell or trap directly to your field, which is going to be your copy of Promenade to be able to give you a negate, along with the Gozen match to be able to just completely lock down the opponent. So we're going to go ahead and do that and put all of these back into the deck and then shuffle up the deck for the copy of Chateau. Then we're going to go ahead and use the effect of Salon to be able to set to our side of the field our copy of Promenade, and we're going to use the copy of our Chocolate a la Mode to detach a material from it to be able to summon out to our side of the field another Madolche monster, which could be any Madolche that you want. Doesn't super matter which one you grab at this point. You can grab another copy of Gelato and just summon it again to get an additional search, which at this point you can grab your copy of Ticket if you want to grab your copy of Ticket, because then you have all of the cards that you're possibly going to need to go in for game, because it's just really a good field to be able to establish that we just did with all those cards. That's really awesome to be able to just summon all those. So you can activate Ticket on your side of the field now, set your copy of Gozen Match, and then pass over to the opponent. All of them are gaining 500. You have the effect of Hoot Cake going up to 2k. This is at 2k, this is at 3k, and this is at 21. So you have a lot of really powerful monsters on your side of the field. And you also have the effect of Sistart on the field, which if you guys are unfamiliar with this card, which this card actually has a really good effect that when it points to a Madolche monster, Madolche spells and traps you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. And also neither player can target them with card effects either, which is just really good to be able to protect your Madolche spells and traps, which is just really nice. So at this point, you have plenty of places you can go for. You can stop the opponent right here with your copy of Promenade to be able to bounce one of your cards back to your hand, which is your Hoot Cake that you're going to bounce back to the hand, and then be able to use the effect to negate a card, which is really good. You also have the Gozen Match. Since we're only playing Earth in this deck outside of AA Zeus, you have plenty of ways to play through a copy of Gozen Match, which is what's really nice. And even if your opponent destroys one of your monsters by battle, like a copy of your Gelato, it's then just going to go back to the deck and then special summon itself out to your side of the field because of the copy of your Salon, your Ticket, and your copy of your Chocolate a la Mode on the field. You still have a really good field presence, which is what's really good, just in case they do destroy this card. So let's go ahead and do one more quick test hand and see what we can do for one more test hand for you guys, because this deck is just absolutely insane. This is a deck I would not hesitate to carry to a locals, regionals, anywhere and compete with it, because it's just that powerful. Like, the only cards showing you guys the starters, the bricks that you don't want to draw, there's only really really two bricks that you don't want to draw in the deck, and that's these two. You don't want to have the copy of your Messenger Gelato in the hand because you really want to special summon this from the deck, and the same thing with Pudding Sis, or you really want to be able to use these cards from the deck and not brick with them. But it always seems like every Madolche player that I've encountered, and every time I've played Madolche, you always open up Pudding Sis every single time. Like, I don't understand why, but it's just like she's glued to the hand. Like, it's weird. But let's go ahead and shuffle up the deck and see what we can do for our next test hand. So we're going to cut the deck and see what we can do. So we're going to draw into a copy of Nibiru. We're going to draw into a copy of our Petting, a copy of Gozen, Extravagance, and a copy of Salon. This is actually a really good hand. Now, again, this is kind of one of those things where you look at the hand and you go, okay, I have 4 cards in my hand that are just going to get me to a couple of different places if I have other cards, and I do have the copy of Petting, and I can even use the Extravagance to bait out a hand trap, which is really good. So let's go ahead and go through the hand. So we're going to go ahead and use the copy of Extravagance, because you have to use that card first, shuffle up the extra deck, and hopefully, this is the only thing about this deck, that sometimes you will banish multiple copies of the same card that you need, and it kind of turns off the entire turn, which is the only downside. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of 6 cards from our extra deck, hopefully not hitting all our glass souffles, but we're going to get a copy of Tiramisu, Chocolate a la Mode, Glass Souffle, Tiramisu, Sistart, and another copy of Glass Souffle. So we're totally fine. We only have 1 copy of our Glass Souffle left, but we also have 1 copy of Queen Tiramisu that we can still play with, which is really, really nice. And we're going to get a +1 because we're going to get to draw a card, which is going to help out. So we're going to draw 2 off the top of the deck, and we're drawing another copy of Petting and a Messenger Gelato, which doesn't really help us all that much. We can normal summon out the copy of Messenger Gelato because we're not going to normal summon anyways, just to get it out of the hand. But let's go ahead and special summon out the copy of our Petting. Use the effect of Petting to be able to special summon out the copy of our Pudding Sis, and then we're going to go ahead and overlay both of these on your side of the field to be able to make a copy of our Glass Souffle all over again. We're then going to detach the material of the Petting to be able to target itself, and then we're going to overlay for Chocolate a la Mode. Chocolate a la Mode is going to use its ability to put the copy of Petting back into deck, shuffle up the deck, and then we're going to use the effect of our Chocolate a la Mode, detaching the copy of Glass Souffle always to be able to special summon an additional one for the deck, which I usually like to special summon out the copy of Angeli to my side of the field if I don't already have an additional one. Tribute off a card from our side of the field, which is the copy of Angeli, to be able to special summon out the copy of Hoot Cake. We're then going to use the copy of Hoot Cake to be able to banish our copy of our Glass Souffle, to be able to special summon out to our side of the field our copy of Messenger Gelato, which is going to grab our copy of Chateau from the deck to be able to then use our copy of Salon in the hand to be able to shuffle them back if we want to. But I like to do it a little bit different. I like to activate the copy of Salon, which is going to give us that additional normal summon to be able to normal summon out the copy of our Messenger Gelato. Link both of these away because it's kind of dead in the hand to be able to then put our copy of our Sistart on the field. We can then use the effect of our Chateau, activate that card on our side of the field, shuffle all of these cards back into the deck, which is going to help us out a lot to be able to shuffle all of these back into the deck. And then we can use the effect of our copy of our Chocolate a la Mode all over again. And at this point, we're going to special summon out a copy of Messenger Gelato, use its effect to be able to actually, we overstepped a little bit. We forgot to use the Salon as well, which Salon is actually going to set us to our side of the field a copy of Promenade since we had cards shuffled back into the deck. And then we're going to summon out the Messenger Gelato off the copy of Chocolate a la Mode. Chocolate a la Mode is going to special summon out the Messenger Gelato, which Messenger Gelato is going to give us an additional search of our copy of Ticket, which we just pulled full combo all over again. So that's full combo. So we're going to go ahead and set the copy of Goes and Match, let our opponent go. We have the negate in our side of the field, which is the copy of Promenade, and you have the copy of Goes and Match as well to be able to shut down the opponent's field. Chateau is boosting them all up, and you can OTK with this field, which is what's really good. Now, if I was going second, I would normal summon out the copy of my Petting to my side of the field. If I was going second, overlay both of these right down here, make a copy of Tiramisu, detach the material, shuffle 2 back into my opponent's hand, and then go in for game with these cards, which is really good, while also activating the copy of Ticket that we searched to be able to, when you use the copy of your Tiramisu, we're then going to be able to special summon a card from the deck, which is really good since we control a fairy with both of these monsters, so you have plenty of plays with that field. And you also have a Nibiru to back it up, so just in case your opponent board wipes you, you still have the Nibiru that you can go here, which is really awesome, especially with the goes and match. So that's it for this one, guys. I think I pretty much showed you guys the 1-card combo with your petting, your copy of Angeli, and your copy of your Madolche, which is really, really awesome to be able to pull off all those different combos. This deck is super fun to be able to play. I've been playing with it a lot recently, and there is just a lot of plays in this deck that you can pull off. Being able to summon out that 1-card combo just with your copy of Madolche, petting, and your copy of Angeli is just so good. Like, this deck is so good, and just like one really good card from being just absolutely broken. It's already pretty broken, but when you get that 1 card, it's just going to be absolutely insane. So anyways, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. If you guys would like to check out the deck profile, as always, it is down in the description down below, and definitely give Diego some love for suggesting this video, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.